Alright, so Hazelwood East High School in St. Louis, Missouri offered students a journalism class as an elective. As a part of the class, students ran a school paper, The Spectrum, which published a new edition every couple of weeks. In May of 1983, the journalism class submitted their draft of the school year's final edition of The Spectrum to Principal Robert Eugene Reynolds for publication. When Principal Reynolds reviewed the draft, he found a few articles that he considered to be controversial. The paper included articles about teen pregnancy and divorce. These articles featured interviews with students on their experiences, including some references to sexual activity and birth control. Even though the interviewed students were not named in the article, Principal Reynolds was concerned for their privacy, as well as about the references to sexual activity, since the newspaper was also available to younger students at the school. Due to the deadline to get the paper printed, there wasn't enough time to revise the draft, so Principal Reynolds just cut out the 2 pages containing these articles. This cut the paper from 6 pages down to 4, trashing a third of the paper. The 2 pages with the controversial articles also contained other student articles with no objectionable material. These articles were also removed from the Spectrum. This upset student editor Kathy Kuhlmeier, so she went to the American Civil Liberties Union, an organization dedicated to protecting civil rights, and sued the school district. Principal Reynolds argued, "I'm not censoring the paper, I'm editing it. It's my responsibility to protect student privacy, to ensure that the paper is appropriate for students of all ages, and to make sure it's consistent with the values and the mission of the school." Kathy and the ACLU, on the other hand, said that the articles were not disruptive, obscene, or defamatory, which are acceptable reasons for censoring newspapers. They argued that the articles represented valid student perspectives, even if they made the principal uncomfortable. They claimed Reynolds was censoring the Spectrum, which violated the students' First Amendment rights to free speech and free press. This case went all the way to the Supreme Court, where the justices sided 5-3 in favor of Principal Reynolds and the school district. The court's decision came down to whether or not the Spectrum was really a newspaper in the eyes of the Constitution. Since it was a component of a journalism class, they determined that the paper's primary purpose was as an educational experience, not an outlet for student speech. Additionally, they said that since the paper was school-sponsored, the administration had increased power to edit the content of the paper. The court basically said that the Spectrum was more like a class project than a real public forum, which the school would have less power to censor. As long as it's for a valid educational reason, the Supreme Court says a school has more power to censor student speech within school-sponsored forums, like assemblies and sporting events. On the plus side for students, the Supreme Court says you do have a right to individual expression within school, as long as that expression is not disruptive to the learning environment. For example, in Tinker versus Des Moines, the Supreme Court held that a school couldn't forbid students from wearing a black armband as a symbolic protest against the Vietnam War. So don't worry, you don't leave all your First Amendment rights at the schoolhouse gate. Hey, I wonder if a bathroom stall counts as a public forum.